Grand Rising. This is the Straight Talk Network and on the Straight Talk Morning Show. My name is Andre Hill. I'm your host, and we had a little technical difficulty. I kind of expected that with today's topic. So they won't go up. So and we have our co-host Terrence Lake, our chairman up in Detroit, Michigan. How you doing this morning, Chairman?
Grand Rising, everyone. I'm doing fine. You know, that Michigan weather, it looks like a fall day, the rain and all that other stuff, but
What?
it's not snowing, so that's a good thing.
And I can't. Okay, so what do you got? What are you at, 60 degrees or something?
Oh, it's probably in the 50s, I bet.
The 50s?
It's not summertime yet. Come on now.
We need to build a vent system, pump you some warm air up there.
Sounds like a winter.
Oh my goodness!
And I like a little 50-degree weather right now. I got some clothes. You can't wear them down here in Florida. You've been lost some weight.
I bet.
We need to. Okay. Also, we have our engineer and co-host Andre Hill Jr. What's going on, man?
I'm good, man. Good, man. Just for the most part, enjoying this summertime weather and the springtime.
No, it's Africa hot here in Tampa right now. Feel like the Sahara Desert out there sometimes. So we got a hot topic today, and the objective when we post topics like this is to eliminate the madness. There's an old saying, in the absence of light, darkness prevails. So we bring these issues to the surface that most people don't want to talk about. That's taboo. They are fearful. We the star seeds, we don't fear nothing. We don't fear anything but breaking the laws of the Most High. And, that's how we roll. So anyway, I did post it on Friday. Good afternoon, family. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Straight Talk Network. You can reach us on YouTube. If you go to my Facebook page, punch the little blue highlight of the YouTube link, or you can watch us on Facebook. And they try to make it difficult, let our friends know when Facebook is making it difficult. Just go to our YouTube channel and they can get it off my Facebook page. Our old Straight Talk Network page, it's just gone into an oblivion. It hasn't been reactivated. No reason or rhyme why it was deactivated by Facebook, but we're gonna let that karma roll over to them.
No, you want to know what I'm realizing? What happened? It's still up. It's still up, and every time we post, I think a show goes to it. We just don't have control over it anymore.
What? That Pegasus program is working fine, man.
It's weird stuff.
All right, so anyway, the topic, the real serious problem on this planet, we're gonna deal with that because this is in our book, Lucifer's Revenge, and it explains our dilemma. And so I'm thinking, if we just put this out in common sense, plain language, layman's term, maybe people can connect the dots. I had promised to try to steer away from these topics because I do remember seeing a post that if anybody is not woke right now in these circumstances, you're not going to wake them up. And I'm a telepath. The chairman is a telepath. My son is a telepath. So I get these topics flowing through my head. And most of the time, through my discernment, they're coming from the Most High. And these are issues that need to be addressed to the human species as to why we just can't get along. So this topic, first topic is, why do most Caucasian men serve the Luciferian agenda? And also, most melanated women serve Lucifer and are unaware of it. Maybe. So I had to put that maybe on there. Okay, so also most light-skinned melanated people are proud of their Caucasian heritage, but don't realize they are the descendants of rape victims. There lies the delusion and confusion. And this is a hot one, be sure to tune in. So this particular segment, you know, the logic and rationale behind this one is some of the components of the Willie Lynch letter, you know, and I keep telling people to go read it so you can have an understanding what's the root of our problem. But our book, Lucifer's Revenge, go directly into the root, describe the characters, how they came about, and so on and so on. So, but what we're going to do is open up the topic of, and hey man, if you could start prepping that video. I wanted to play this video. It's a little confused, but it kind of shows the mindset of our young black men and our young Caucasian men, who fits in the characteristics of most of the Caucasian men. I think that these guys are the few that qualifies as not serving the Lucifer.
That we all burn.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the video is a spiritual struggle. Now they have the crosses, the Holy Bible, they have a Caucasian Jesus in here. And, you know, so a lot of us in church, a lot of the church-going people in the melanated community, they have changed these images from the light-skinned, stringy-haired Jesus to the real description of what a Christ being is all about. And I don't like to use the terminology Jesus. Christ being is most appropriate for me. But this video, it will give you, I think I got the touch screen. I'm trying to do the touch.
Oh yeah, you ain't got
This video, now I'm moving this icon up here. I'm not dealing with the video. So this video gives you a little insight to the state of mind. These definitely the black producers, what's on their mind. They're still appealing to Catholicism, who created these religions of Christianity, the new version of Christianity, and Islam. So let's play this. So let's see what kind of message we're getting from this.
Turn the rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I pray to God in hopes he would reply to me. He'll wash away any demons that are inside of me. But after all this, don't know if there's any fight in me. So hold me close and don't ever lose sight of me. I read my life for the devil and now I'm so alive. He offered me fame and riches to blow up overnight. I turned my back on the darkness as God opened my eyes. Got down and prayed he'd save me from my own demise. I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with man on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose. Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
heaven was hell and vice versa, would you partake in the evil? Team up with demons, deceiving people to see him hurt. I believe in God, though I ain't seen him in person. Know the devil's lurking, he's working, trying to see who gon' worship. The world is full of division, they twisted all the religions, created mental victims so they stay enslaved to the system. Indoctrinated generations can't escape the agenda. It's time we change how we live and start educating our children.
I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with man on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose. I never seen them, but I know that they watching me like I'm a Cena. I'm trying to be cleaner, but the devil keep dancing around my arena, trying to get me to Lena, trying to come in between us. But he is not Ike and I'm not Tina. See, I won't eat the cake cause I don't want the lake. I don't play with gasolina. I'm grinning, no sinning. He wrote the end from the beginning, and that's why I'm winning. The devil got me spinning, trying to phone me like I'm Lennon, but I ain't not bidding. The world keep on trying to seep in. The devil throw me in the deep end. I got Jesus, I ain't never sinking. I'm swimming, yeah. I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with men on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose.
I never saw an angel till I saw the one who fell from the sky. Never knew an evil quite like what I felt in his eyes. Introduced himself as Lucifer, I already knew him cause I was used to the scripture saying just who he was. Satan was growing up, every child of the Father, every mind, every life, every sister and brother. He said, I'll give you the world, I'll make you royalty. I told him, get behind me, Satan, you're not new to me.
I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with men on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose.
Father, I've been looking for a blessing, spiritually fighting in this war, got me stressing, and bad thoughts take over like cancer. But God, I know you are the answer. Father, it's hard to believe what we can't see, but I got no time for disbelief. I don't wanna miss out on eternal life.
I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with men on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose.
Let me take a second, put myself in Satan's shoes. If it was my goal to bring it down, and I knew it was a still small voice I had to overpower, I'd flood your head with 1,000 voices. A lot like anxiety. That one's pretty loud. How about depression? That one tends to shout. Throw in a little self-loathing, little shame inside. And now we got ourselves a crowd. I'd probably make you think of suicide on the way down, long before you ever hit the ground. Cause I don't want you hit rock bottom and the tears run dry. You'll turn to God and he's always there to pull you out. Here's the thing of which I'm convinced: intrusive thoughts, man, they don't exist. But they're attacks by the enemy, it's a throwing fist. That's why you need God's armor, cause Satan doesn't miss.
I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with men on earth.
Say, man, you know this song 11 minutes and 33 seconds long.
Okay. It was gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing in this particular broad production is a mixture of different men from different cultures. And when I see stuff like that, you know, I want to get involved and try to adjust the narrative, you know, because a lot of these productions, you know, they have a motivation behind them. But, you know, first and foremost, the young melanated men, you know, I'm always interested in stepping in and giving them an alternative, you know, because the old narrative is not working for them. You know, they're crying out, they're trying to reach and touch the traditional church ideology of depending on this Christ being to come save you, when the real Christ will tell you, you too can perform these miracles and even greater works. So, you know, I like to try to take productions like this and calibrate it, you know, to where it's effective, and make some other suggestions and recommendations. Well, Chairman, what do you think about that piece?
I think it was really lovely because the young folks you know, are communicating to their peers. You know, like you say, us older guys, we got our version, we got our stigmas, you know, things that we've been told, but the young people got a different taste where they can communicate to each other and they're getting that same message across, but they're trying to group, you know, their peers together and see that light. You know, they're giving their description of that light. You know, get it together. You know, the devil is on all levels, it's saying, and that's true, you know, from the highest to the lowest, you know. And yeah, I think they got the message across, and they'll draw in a lot of young folks because that's what young folks want to hear, the truth. They don't want to go along with this, somebody's coming to save me. No, you're going to have to save yourself.
All right. Hey, Junior, what do you think about that video? Have you heard it before? Because this is the generation before yours, right?
No, they about my age or younger. I know I look young, but
Yes, younger.
Yeah, they're probably younger than me. Just like Chairman said, I think it was an interesting blend of different ethnicities, for one. And you know, we do talk about a lot of religious concepts on this show. Particularly what we talk about on this show is, you know, let's say the maturity level of spiritual maturity level of Christians or Christianity in general. And this is, I think people have heard me say this on this show before. Me personally, I'm not, against Christians or judging of them or any other matter. This is honestly how I feel about it. If we're going to claim the title of Starseed, we also got to understand that we're going to see humans on different spiritual paths and different spiritual, let's say, for lack of a better word, grade levels. Meaning, you know, for all intents and purposes, right now in 2025, you got a lot of people shying away from religion in general and deeming Abrahamic religions in general as spiritually elementary. Now, this is my thing. For me, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, I think it's just as important for somebody to go through the second grade as it is for them to go through the 11th grade. Right? I mean, it's you know, steps a level to it. I think overall, the message that they were delivering was righteous, you know, overall, and I think that's the bottom line of it. So, but you know, I was looking for this. You know, I mean, I may have overlooked it, but I didn't see images of Caucasian Jesus. I didn't see it. I may have missed it.
I saw it.
You saw it?
Yeah.
There's one picture of the old Caucasian Jesus.
Okay. We don't want to say that's small, right? Because we remember and we understand what the creation of Caucasian Jesus was for. But in this, and you know, just looking at these young guys, I want to assume, you know, until they, you know, prove to me otherwise, that their idea of what a Christ-like being is could be any race of people. Can be any race of people. Maybe the only picture of Jesus they had was a white Jesus at the moment for the video, right? But based on the fact that you saw so many ethnicities in that group, you know, even and let's be even more particular on the matter. You've got Caucasian men in this video adapting to and representing hip hop culture, right? And for the most part, that started in my generation. Because they started going to school with us and listening to rap. It's just, I watched it. You know what I'm saying? So my point is, I don't think they, you know, just looking at them, like I say, I assume until proven otherwise that they don't have the idea that the Most High is made in the image of Caucasian men only, right? Because that's important to note. But that may have just been the only picture that they could have found for the video. Who knows? But that's my take on it. So concluding it, the delivery was righteous. I want to assume that even under the guise of Christianity, they're maturing in their own religious doctrine, because that's necessary for them to be maturing, and that maturity is shown in the diversity of the people in the video. So overall, I like it. Overall.
So I think that we're still in a time where the Catholicism, Christianity design is still influencing the production. These young men was trying to demonstrate an adjustment in those ideologies, and also by outlining, the low frequency entity known as Lucifer is constantly attacking them, and so on and so on. But I caution that this type of video is part of desperation of still recruiting people back into that Catholicism type Christianity that was created 500 years ago. And it was demonstrating a unity with different culture of men. But I think the narrative of what Lucifer is and why Lucifer is operating on this planet. And once again, the name Lucifer, Diablo, Dark Vader, all of that, I use those names as a metaphor because what we are doing is explaining how low frequency energy operates in the universe. And so, and to the young melanated men in that video, I understand that, in order for you to get production money, to do and I don't know how it came about, but I know that Catholicism and the secondary Christianity that was created by Catholicism it encourages productions to make sure you're still using their image of the cross and their image of this Caucasian looking Christ being, and it's still sending a subliminal message that, linked to that image, you're depending on that individual, because the young melanated man says, you know the king that I serve. And so you have to caution this because that king that they serve was made up by the Catholic Church during the Council of, what the Council of Nicaea?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they crafted this whole religious construct, which books in the Bible and all that sort of thing. What I'm trying to extract from this production, the Caucasian men, the young Caucasian men, appear to be moving out of the white supremacy scenario into accepting equality, and that opens the door to a small percentage of Caucasian men that understand, the value of their soul versus the gaining of the world. There's an old saying, what is it for a man to gain the world and lose his soul? So, but I encourage that sort of activity, but I think they need to be neutral with the true history of Earth. And they need to, don't continue to show these images, of a entity that was created, and through a series of councils of the original psyops of how we're going to brainwash people to depend on this image to come save us when we have the power within each other to save ourselves. And then when we come together with that power, then that Christ spirit, it manifests and it can remove mountains. But, But to give that energy to an image or a cross, I think that's not going in the right direction. And very soon, a lot of these individuals that are supporting those institutions, they're getting ready to see that it's not going in the right direction. And it's going to be demonstrated, and it's happening all over the world. So that, which brings us to the point about the Caucasian man. The question is, why do most Caucasian men serve the Luciferian agenda? So if we go back to the Willie Lynch letter, if we go back to John Milton's Paradise Lost poems that was written in the 1600s, we come up with a narrative that the Luciferian agenda was a negative energy force, and the high command allowed it to come to Earth to test us. And when it got here, when Lucifer was allowed to come here, even though he thought he was sneaking up on the planet, according to John Milton's story, he wasn't, because the Most High knew every move he was making, and they allowed him to get into position and corrupt the planet. Now, when Lucifer got here, he needed some loyal soldiers, and so that's when the gene splicing to create the Caucasian phenotype happened. And so Lucifer knew when he created that entity, that Caucasian phenotype, and bring it to the surface, it could not compete with the original design of the melanated humans. So Lucifer knew that if they wanted to, experience their own paradise, they was going to have to do some horrible things to get in position. Otherwise, they would be genetically eliminated. And so the Caucasian man had to become beholden, because he was introduced to the human species 7,000 years ago, and it took 1 million years to develop these melanated bodies. That's in sync with their pineal gland to create melanin to protect them from the sun. So when you bring a phenocode online only 7,000 years ago, it's like an infant, and it doesn't understand the laws of the universe and right from wrong, even though it knows right from wrong, but it doesn't understand the repercussions. So Lucifer knew that it was a new species, and that he could manipulate it to do his bidding, which is lie, cheat, steal, murder, rape. What you think, Chairman?
Well, my take on, when you say that we created Caucasians, I tend to differ, because I feel that we all came from other solar systems to Earth. We were put here strategically at certain times, because the majority of the Caucasians that I know and are related to, they believe in Palladia, the other, star systems, and they feel when they came here, we were already here. They know that we were here before them, but they don't believe that we created them. And you cannot convince the most knowledgeable ones to the most ignorant ones that this is so. But, the jury is still out. But we do know that we all came here a long time ago, and we're trying to work out something. And I think we've worked it out basically amongst the majority of us. It's just some people are still holding on to that negative power to control, and like you say, the Willie Lynch mentality, but that's not working, because younger Caucasians are waking up to the fact that they know that we're basically all the same. We can exchange body parts. I'll land that plane.
All right, hey man, the engineer. So what's your take on do you think all Caucasian men have to serve Lucifer because they're not equipped with the natural equipment that was given to the Aboriginals of this planet?
Nah. So when we talk about Caucasian people, we just essentially talking about recessive genes. Right, that's not even a term we made up. That's a modern scientific term. Right, recessive genes, meaning, especially in this case, a lack of melanin on the epidermis in particular. In other words, the skin. And then we ask ourselves, why is it a recessive gene? And we talk about that quite often, because if you're going to be on the surface of this planet, you're going to be on the surface, you're going to have a lot of access to lights, different type of lights, particularly the big ball of fire in the sky we call the sun, right? But also too, I do want to put an emphasis on different types of lights, different types of frequencies. But we also know melanin has a copper-based lattice within it, meaning it's conductive. It's a biological conductive substance, right? And yes, if you have recessive genes, it means you don't have as much. But why do we have melanin? Because we need to interface properly, but with the light sources and this planet, and so that design is the most evolved design for the human body. Right, it's the most evolved design for the human body because it allows you to communicate with your entire environment most effectively. So what we have to take a look at when it comes to recessive genes, we ask ourselves, how and why was nature selecting recessive genes in such a mass amount, right? In other words, how and why does a communication deficiency on the human body become prevalent enough to create an entire race of people? Because the recessive gene of a lack of melanin is not a new thing. It was just used to be rare in melanated people. Matter of fact, let me just, we see this a lot, but let me just give everybody the image again. This picture here. This is an original African woman, and this is her child. All right, that's a recessive gene. That's the original form of quote unquote white people. Or better yet, I take that back. That's not what that is. Actually, that's not what that is. That is just an albino woman. Scientifically, that's what that was. An albino African woman, right? Term white, that's a social political term. But you see a baby child, chocolate and everybody sitting on this panel, right? So this was a rare occasion because, you ask, you take a look out there in nature, you don't see a lot of recessive gene flora out there. In other words, plants and trees. Most of them are green or got some type of color and hue to them. Why? Because that's going to be the best scenario for them to perform photosynthesis and live healthy and live longer. So saying all that to say this, just looking at it scientifically, we ask ourselves again, where did Caucasian people come from? Till this day, I mean, I'm open to the theory, and I just put emphasis on that again, the theory that they may have been from another planet, may have been the Palladians, may have been this, may have been that. And this is not, me trying to minimize, anybody's, beliefs. I'll let people believe what they want to believe. But when we really think about it, the concept of extraterrestrialism is largely purported through the lens of European academia. Meaning, if you let Caucasian people depict extraterrestrials 9.5 times out of 10, they are going to look Caucasian. They are. As a matter of fact, let's be real. Every extraterrestrial depiction up until recent has all looked Caucasian. Why? Because the majority of the people who were purporting them were Caucasian. That's why. Let's not be real. We ain't start talking about black aliens till relatively recently. We ain't start talking about black aliens until recently. I mean, like the last, and talking about pretty prevalently the last 20 years. And it's a reason for that. Now, so when we look at a mass amount of recessive gene people coming to the surface or coming into fruition and having to interact and or compete with the original design, what are we gonna get? We're gonna get a complex, technically an inferiority complex. Do all of them have to subscribe to that inferiority complex? No. Do all of them do it at this time? No. In other words, all white people ain't saying I have to uphold white supremacy in order to live on this planet. All of them, no. A good amount of them, yes. Yes. Were they conditioned to do that? Yes. Yeah, they were. So landing this plane, they just answer your question straightforward that do all of them feel that, have I observed the majority of Caucasian people saying, or saying or not saying and subconsciously acting upon, do I need to uphold white supremacy? Nope. But is it still alive and well? Yeah, it's gonna be that until for a while, to be quite honest with you. But go ahead.
Okay, so Chairman, also to you, the Pleiadians and the so-called Aryan race of ETs. Now, in order for them to get approval to manipulate their species, they still had to deal with the mitochondrial DNA of a black woman, because a black woman was the original design for humanoids to become bipedal and smart enough to take orders and complete tasks. And so the millions of years it took to develop this bipedal Homo sapien, even the Pleiadians had to use that mitochondrial DNA even with their species, because if they was to bring their species to this planet and they originated in some other planet and they have not built up the resistance to bacteria and different diseases and that sort of thing, they couldn't operate on the surface. So it's mandatory that they had to use the prototype of the melanated female to even develop their species here. Because if they, so this is what vaccines is all about. A vaccine is a bridge creating resistance against different viruses and bacteria, and that's why the humans had to have so many of them, because this design is 100,000, maybe 500,000 years old, but other animals have been on the planet for millions of years. So this is why we have to use some organisms from their bodies to boost our immune system. But, and we are the original humans. So that means that the Caucasians, who were a splinter off from the original mitochondrial DNA from a black woman, that, they had to, the Pleiadians and those alien races, they had to walk gingerly because they had a special treaty. They didn't have a treaty of dominance all over the planet. Otherwise, it would demonstrate that they were not civilized, because that species, that phenocode they created, have been very destructive to the planet. And these advanced beings they are cognizant of a universal law, just don't run amok. So yes, I believe the Palladians may have had some involvement with, tampering around with their design to create a bipedal human to walk among humans on Earth. But I still think they had to come through the mitochondrial DNA of the original humans, which were melanated and symmetrically designed to operate on this planet. So all right. So now let's look at Lucifer. If I was Lucifer and I wanted some soldiers that I knew was going to serve me loyally to the death, I would have created a recessive gene design so that they had no choice but to be beholden to if you can't compete on a level playing field, and that's evident by what has happened in the sports, in the NFL, the basketball, and even what was demonstrated in golf. The melanated human, which is in sync with the surface and nature, is going to thrive beyond a Caucasian human, if it's tit for tat, oranges for oranges, apples for apples. From an astrological perspective, I could take a Sagittarius tiger like Bo Jackson and put a Caucasian Sagittarius tiger next to Bo Jackson. He will have some extraordinary human capabilities, but it won't reach the optimum like Bo Jackson. If so, where is he? There was a guy that played with here in the Tampa Bay Bucks. His name was Allstat. He was a large side human and did some damage in the NFL. But I'm willing to bet you, whatever his birth coordinates were, I can go find an Aboriginal human in the projects, in anywhere, build him up muscle for muscle, and I'm willing to bet you 9 times out of 10 that human that has the same coordinates as Allstott used to be a running back for the Tampa Bay, and he would outperform him. So we get into the root of why Caucasian men have to participate in white supremacy, why they have to worship Lucifer, because they cannot compete on a level playing field on average. And so now there is a slight paradox. The Caucasian men here in the Americas have been truly spoiled to white supremacy, but you take the Caucasian men in Russia, where they didn't go along with this white supremacy crap, and they work and they muscle up, and so you match a Russian and a black man, that Russian will give that black man a better contest than he would an American Caucasian. I've seen this. What are you thinking, Chairman?
Well, you got a point there. Sometimes people become relaxed and they don't struggle as hard because, when you dominate everything, you feel privileged. Whereas with the blacks, we always have to struggle to try and get up that ladder, but it just makes us stronger because we're fighting so much opposition trying to get up there. Where the white, a lot of them, they don't have to fight as hard. Even though today things are changing because some of them aren't privileged. I know I grew up with them. I'm 77 years old, and I've been knowing some almost since birth, at least since 5 years old when I started kindergarten, but it's a different world today,
So Chairman, when you said you was growing up with some Caucasian boys, right?
Yes.
And at any point, did you see the change in them when they had their talk with their dads, uncles, or people to understand that, we are different, even though we're humans, but there's a difference? Did you see a change when they had that conversation during your friendship with them?
Well, my thing is there was always a gravitation of them always wanting to be around blacks, but sometimes their parents didn't allow it. Like there were some houses I could go into and some houses I couldn't go into. And I could imagine in an all black area, you probably got some blacks that won't allow some blacks to go into their house for whatever reason there is. But I noticed with my Caucasian friends, you know, but on the outside, we were all the same. We were all poor, and really didn't know it because as kids, you're going to just have fun. If you're throwing rocks, or shooting marbles, it's just the way life is, you know. But yeah, it's a different world today. We can't, measure life today the way it was when I was younger, you know. But Caucasians tend to want to come and mingle with blacks today because they know it's only fair. Their spirit is the same spirit that we have. We all have a part of that same spirit that created the whole universe. But you got to be fair because when you're not fair, you're gonna hurt yourself when you're not true. You got to be true. You got to believe in the truth, because if you don't, you're in trouble. It's just the way it is. I don't want someone to tell me I can go down that street and there's nothing's going to happen to me, but there's a gang of people that I can't see waiting for me to come down there and get me. I want to know the truth. Let me know the people are there and I can prepare, but don't let me go and get ambushed. I want to know the truth.
All right. So we're going to put a pin in that and go on to the next topic. But on that note, to Caucasian men, you got to be in some kind of spiritual turmoil at this point to understand, that you building bombs, you murdering children, not all of you, but the corruption, like with Burkina Faso and Africa, they're telling these Caucasian men, get out of my country. And, we're going to become self-sustainable ourselves. And so immediately here in the Americas, when Burkina Faso and those African nations, they started plotting, how can we assassinate these young black leaders who no longer want to go along with white supremacy. And then Vladimir Putin and Korea stepped up and said, we're going to protect this brother. So is it that our Caucasian cousins realize that if they don't control the monetary system to say who gets funded, for their, to help their people out and who doesn't, if you're not beholden to the world banking system or cartel, so the shift is happening right now, and this is the reason I brought this topic up, because Caucasian men is getting ready, the ones that are in position to demonstrate just how desperate they are to hold on to white supremacy, because they know without it, they have no leverage. They can't get black women easily, or they can't even keep their own. They won't be able to keep their own women, especially if black men had, level the playing field. So, I'm very suspect of what's going on over in Israel. What are their, what kind of satanic alliances are they developing? Because melanated people are waking up all over the planet. And that was the whole gist of this. Going into, segue into the topic, also most melanated women serve Lucifer and are aware of it. And then I put in quotation marks, maybe. I think some of them are, very wise to the fact that, you know, through the fact that our women have mutated for over 400 years to develop means of survival, you know, by subconsciously pitting the Caucasian male who is gullible enough to you know, or encourage the Black woman to separate and not depend on that Black man. You know, we have a chaotic dilemma going on here. So you have certain women, you know, in our community that they're bought into all of these systems, all of these Caucasian, I want to call them European, these Caucasian systems of maintaining dominance, you know. And so our women have basically, because they've been left unprotected, they kind of use that system, you know, especially if they believe after 400 years that the Black man is their man and they should have authority and rule over him, you know. And so if that Black man gets out of sort or go and sleep around with another woman, you know, that woman can retaliate and have him put out or call the police on him, you know, or start a fight with him and then end up calling the police, put him out of his own house or whatever the case, or her house, or whatever the case might be. So is that woman serving the Luciferian agenda? Chairman?
Wow. You know, that's a tricky situation. You know, you're in a relationship and you're supposed to come together and share and agree and be honest. And if you're not, then, you know, you got to resolve it or go your separate ways, because you can't just combat, fight every day, argue. One is cheating, one is being fair. That it's going to come to a clash eventually. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, you got to be fair, you know. And I'm not saying that all men are bad. I'm not saying that all women are bad. But on both sides, you got to agree. You got to sit down at the table and work things out. And it's not always easy, you know. But hey, when you were talking a little earlier about uh, Black men and white women, you also got to look at it. You get more and more Black women that are wanting to sort of test out the white male. I've had a couple of my daughters in a conversation that said they would like to date a white guy, you know. So we sat down and had a civil talk about it. And I'm not against that if that's what they want to do. You know, I'm a protector. I'm making sure if she's dating a black, white, yellow, brown, whoever, as long as they treat her right, you know, go for it, you know. But I believe we were created with choice, and we should, you know, protect that choice at all means necessary.
Well, I got a question, Chairman. So did you ask your daughters that if they had to choose, why were they considering a Caucasian man? And is it because of economic reasons, or is it that they're more attentive, or what was the reasoning? Because my question goes back to if it was because of economics, and if she had a choice from a melanated man standing here on the right hand with the same income, same support system, you know, and to this Caucasian man, who would she pick? The Caucasian man or the Black man?
Well, I can't say which one she would pick, because her question is she would like to date a Caucasian man, because, you know, they've had, I can't say several relationships, but they've had relationships where they weren't treated a certain way. And now they're looking at the other side to see, well, how would this white guy be to date, to go out, to do something different with? So I'm not objecting to that. It's just like the same way with Caucasian man. Now he's got more to worry about because if his Caucasian women start dating a lot of blacks, that's going to decrease his population. But if a black woman and a white Caucasian man get together, and if they do procreate, that's going to be a black baby. We know that. It's just the way it is. So I can understand why the Caucasian man is really out to protect his women at all costs because he don't want to be annihilated, you know? No bullets fired.
So how does well, Junior, you've been quiet a little bit here. we're running out of time. What's your thoughts, man? In terms of if the woman had melanated women, I got my tongue all tied up. Melanated women choosing to deal with Caucasian men for economic reasons, or they're more affectionate?
Black women are choosing to deal with other races of men in general for two reasons. And let's just put it on the table. For the most part, collectively, it may be an economic thing, but primarily what I hear is more on it is a broad thing, but it's different for each scenario. But the bottom line of it is, it is about the treatment. But here's the thing. But let me be clear on that. Black women are saying they don't know how another race of man is going to treat them. They just feel like black men, their experience with black men has been whatever it is, right? So then then the other thing is, one of the main reasons they are willing to do that is because they see us date out so much.
True.
The truth of the matter is, for the most part, 80 to 90% of black women are choosing black men. Just keep it. That's the stats. Forget the propaganda. That's the stats. That's the math. That's what's real. 80% let's keep it around about 80 of black men are choosing black women. Those are the stats. That's what's real. But any of us who are choosing to date out, particularly black women, for the most part, they're trying to figure out if the treatment is going to be different. So, when it comes to economics, no, let's be real. So we, just look at them stats again. The majority of black women are dating black men, regardless of our economic status. That's what's happening. Right? We can't, romanticize this or propagandize this. that's what's happening. So, but answering or responding to something you said earlier, like the scenario of, whether or not, a black man is going to be dealing with 2 or 3 different women in a scenario where the woman has primary control over the household. And it was like this. And this is just me, I don't care what the scenario is, I blame black men for everything. Let me tell you what I mean. It is just me. All right. But I don't like to feel as if I'm giving all the power away by not taking accountability for most of the things that are happening in our community. Like, we the men. So are we not supposed to have control and a hold on everything? Meaning, whatever condition our community is in, whose fault is that? That's ours. We're supposed to be the leaders, right? We're supposed to be the supporters and the protectors. Even talking about, I don't even like talking about Caucasian men as if they have that much power. I don't like that conversation. I don't like it. I don't like having a conversation as if they have dominance. I don't even like putting Caucasian men and dominance in the same sentence. Dominating who? Not me. So when we I understand the conversation is necessary, but I think we need to have this necessary conversation too. At what point do we say, as black men, we want to take control 100% control and power righteously back over our community. We had that conversation. That's the one we need to be talking about. But because if we did, and when we acted upon that conversation, we would be having a conversation about white supremacy. When we worried about that, right? So, you know, even getting back to the scenario, just that specific one, you know, if a black man is, you know, he knows his situation. He knows that he's in this housing situation with this woman. It's like, bro, you know, you can't, you have to do what you got to do. You know, you can't stick and move like that if you got that kind of opposition at the house. Or if you are, be truthful. Be truthful about it. Because just on this mundane topic, just on this note, you'd be surprised how many women are willing to go along with what you're trying to do if you just be straight up from the jump. You'd be surprised. I'm just saying that to the men. You'd be surprised what women will say, okay, I understand, you know, right? So, you know, not bifurcating the two, not overlapping the two, just compartmentalizing them. Our communication with Black women, if it's truthful, most times it's harmonious, right? They may get mad in the moment. They may get mad in the moment or feel however they're going to feel in the moment. But again, at the end of the day, upwards of 90% of Black women are choosing Black men. So it ain't like they just jump and ship. That's not the real narrative. That's not the real narrative. So landing that plane, I know we 5 minutes over. I think for the most part, Black people, at least in my generation and below, are in the state of mind of revitalizing Black love in response to all the propaganda that's saying that we don't love each other, and working more towards building sustainable living and generational wealth. That's pretty much what we have right now.
All right, I got a quick question for both of you. Chairman, what percentage of Caucasian men you think serve the Luciferian agenda? Now, the Luciferian agenda has proven to be the banking system, the political system, the secret society systems, the medical systems. All of those systems have been manipulated to maintain white supremacy. The banking system only lend to people that have been approved by the high oligarchy. The political system, they've been gerrymandering, they've been doing all kind of crazy things to make sure that they dominate, you know, the House, whether it's all Republican or whatever the case might be. So my question to you is, what percentage of Caucasian men do you think serve the Luciferian agenda? And what percentage of them do you think serve the Luciferian agenda based on your experience there in the Detroit area?
Well, if you say Detroit area, I'd say, I have to be honest, probably 60, 70%. But now take it that I lived in Canada for 28 years, and that's a predominantly white society, you know, but I'd say 50% of the Caucasian men are pretty much straight up fair and doing the right thing, because I've experienced it, you know. It's only about 5% of the people in Canada that are Black. And then it's a mixture from every different corner of the globe, you know. But Caucasian men in Canada are different from Caucasian men in the United States, and that's a fact. I've lived that life. In fact, I say I lived there 28 years, but I've been going to Canada since I was 12 years old. I used to catch the bus over there. So, you know, color was not a thing to me until I got in high school. Then I started seeing a difference. But before then, there was no difference.
All right. So, Junior, what do you think? What percentage of Caucasian men have to serve the Luciferian agenda?
Well, in 2025, based on what I'm observing, and because let me put this on it. We've got virtual observation and real life observation, or you may have. Well, let me say this: I rarely see, in general, the majority of Caucasian men serve the Luciferian agenda out in public. Well, at least they don't do that shit around me. You see what I'm saying? I don't know, but I don't know. All right, we run out of time. I'll give them about 65% of them still doing it. About 65%. I'm still buying into it. Meaning, especially right now, especially with Trump in office and all kind of other things. Right.
Yeah. One of the things that prompted me to do this show, in this little area where we live, I've been noticing a lot of the Caucasian people, even the women, are getting all really buffed up, in shape, putting on weight. And so my paranoid brain, they're trying to get like Adolf Hitler, they're going to do that Germany thing all over again. So I was in the elevator with this Caucasian woman, and she was really packing, like she was looking like a sister. I said, wow, superwoman. And so she smiled, flipped her hair, and I said, so what kind of sport are you in to be in the kind of shape you're in right now? Oh, I weightlift. And so, I'm saying, okay, so there's some kind of movement here going on in that community to get physically shaped, get in position. I don't know. This could have been a mild case of paranoia. But my thing is, a phenotype that was created 7,000 years ago, and it's still wanting to murder people if they are acting like they're going to develop an equal currency. I don't see them correcting themselves no time soon. And, and so I'm encouraging Caucasian men, to sabotage this movement of white supremacy. This is the problem. This is the problem why our planet is in the condition that it's in. And, if you want to, some of you may not feel the need to have a melanated body in the next life. I do know of instances where Caucasian men have taken steroids, in the professional sports to level up with black men, and then the black man will go take the steroids, they're killing themselves. It's a crazy thing, that what we're going through. So, this topic, I didn't quite hit the points that I wanted to hit, with Caucasian men, and get them to understand what karma is and, reciprocity is, but we're going to keep working on it. Definitely, I didn't get the chance to hit it with our women, the images that they're praying to, and the embracing of this economic system, this capitalistic system that is based on racism. A lot of our women are comfortable with it. They don't see any problems with it. They're doing fine because they were selected, even in white supremacy, they have a certain amount of melanated people that they're going to allow to have an illusional degree of success. But at the end of the day, the planet is still being destroyed, and the phenocode of the Aboriginals is being eliminated from the planet. I was a little disturbed about when Trump canceled all of the AIDS treatment for them African nations. And of course, I do believe that, all these nations have the ability to produce their own serums and antibodies. And it needs to stop depending on European countries who are manipulating you. And so that's the direction that, we want Caucasians to know in America. We're going to be reclaiming our lives. We're going to be reclaiming our communities. Even with all the gentrification and gerrymandering and all the crazy things that you've done. And we want you to be prepared to understand, if you stand before us to stop our movement to reclaiming our lives, our health, our families, our women, and men and children, you're gonna meet with some serious repercussions, because this new movement, we're not praying to the fake image that you guys put out there or you bought into. We're going to a much higher source that's going to be very effective if you stand before us reorganizing and healing ourselves and our community with your sense of greed. Because I'm having a hard time getting over that you're going to murder that many people just so you can have some oceanfront property. That don't sit well with me. It don't sit well with the Most High. And a warning to all melanated people, like in the words of Malcolm, when them chickens coming home to roost, you don't want to be standing next to them people if they still in denial about the lies and the cheating that they done. This land is our land. The original Aboriginal people, it was sold off and leveraged and bidded off, in backroom deals without our permission. And we're gonna make a change of it. Also, and I know we're out of time. The part about most light-skinned melanated people are proud of their Caucasian heritage, and I'm gonna correct that because I was in a situation and I was listening to a young melanated woman, and she was kind of bragging about her mother and her grandmother. They all got Caucasian people in their family line, and she was doing it, proudly. And so this sort of behavior, me personally, I'm like, you need to be really banking on your Aboriginal heritage, because your ancestors that came over here and murdered everybody and raped and killed, that generational curses in your bloodline, and you need to start working on how you're going to work it out of your bloodline, not embracing it like it's something great. So, these are things taboo that we need to start establishing in our community. Let's embrace our Aboriginal heritage here in the Americas, the South Americas, Africa, and even Asia. They're melanated people. That's how this paradigm shift is about to occur. So, hey, that's it. Chairman, you got any final words, and you want to tell them how to find your book?
Well, you could find my book on YouTube, or not YouTube, but Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or my website, www.godschildren.biz. And if you cash at me $15, because the book is $10, and it would take $5 for me to send you an autographed copy, I have no problem with that. But hey, get the book and you'll be very pleased, because it will inform you on a lot of things and make you think about a lot of things. That's my quote.
That'll work. And so also what we were leading to here today is in our book, Lucifer's Revenge. You guys need to go out there and buy the chairman's book, God's Child, and Lucifer's Revenge. Lucifer's Revenge we recaptured the true history of Earth, how we were created, why, the issues we went through over thousands of years, when the Caucasian Penal Code was entered into this equation of the human experiment, and why it's a test. So we explain all that in the book. We're just trying to hit on these topics to help you understand that, until we come together spiritually to be Christ-like, this problem ain't going away. White supremacy, Black supremacy, ignorance, murder, death, destruction, and bombing babies. It ain't going away until we come together under one spiritual roof, understanding we need to treat each other the way we want to be treated. Hey, go get lucifersrevenge.net. You can, if you can't find it, you can go on my website. Hey man, you close us out. Tell us how they can find it and send us an email.
How to find the book.
How to find the book, and how to send us a note, email-wise.
Go to lucifersrevenge.net to order the book, hardback copy or ebook. And send us a message, especially regarding the only plan left that's going to save us, which is self-governance and self-sustainability. Go to uaarlife@gmail.com. That's uaarlife@gmail.com. All right. But if that's it, yeah, it's 12:18. It's a good show. It's been the Straight Talk Network. Peace and love, family. We see you.